Now, the whole reason I think you should just stop playing Hunter so much is the only reason is probably just because it's not only very unoriginal at this point, but let me guess, the only reason you were playing Hunter is because you saw the trailers with Cade in them. I would bet at real money that a majority of people that play Cade, it's good old friend, not Cade, but play Hunter is because of Cade. Now, I'm not saying that's a big issue, I'm not saying that it's a problem to just want to play the character that you see like Cade. That's not a problem, but it's a problem when that's literally the only thing anyone plays just because of Cade. Heck, putting him down is probably going to be the only reason people might putting him down was probably one of the better choices for people that want to see more of this more refreshing and unfamiliar faces of a Titan or a Warlock. I don't hate Hunter players. I have friends that are mainly Hunters. But I don't like almost always seeing a Hunter. That is too much of a majority. Now, if it was about even playing field, or if it wasn't always a Hunter, then I would find it a heck of a lot more refreshing. It's just, think about this. Put yourself in my shoes. Right? You are tired of seeing a bunch of Hunters. Seeing how nobody plays any other character, and they would probably refuse to grind another character. So, you're stuck with a friend that will legit only do what any other character could do, but better. You're stuck with that friend. And you need to do a raid. You don't have any other friends besides that one. I'm sorry to tell you, my dude. You're gonna have to play with them. You're gonna have to do that raid with them. And most people will say, well, what's your problem with this PvE stuff? And why is it such a big deal that so many people play Hunter? Is the fact that it overwhelms the not the population of the game. Well, yeah, the population of the game. But it overwhelms it so much that it's not only very refreshing just to see something that isn't a Hunter, or is not like a low-level version of one of like a low-level Titan or Warlock, is because you go into a lobby, about close to 90% of that lobby is going to be a Hunter. I would bet real money. Do you understand what I'm saying there? I would real world money on the fact that a Hunter, like a very populated lobby, that's what you're gonna say. I would bet real money. That's not a good thing. If I would bet real money that you would more than likely see a Hunter, then please do switch for your friend's sake and for that sake. Now, let's say you want to get raid gear for Hunter. This is also fine. This is within the realm of reason. Because it's not like, oh, I won't, ever play a different character. For what reason? Oh yeah, I'm not gonna play any other character besides Hunter just because Hunter is very promoted. Bungie look, Hunter will be useful if they make him very more supportful. Now, I have not seen the new subclasses. Alright? So before you think, oh, he hasn't seen the new subclasses and a bunch of them are support. First of all, before anyone also points out exotics, I don't count exotics, I don't count I don't count a full subclass super. Now, if it's a subclass where they'll get more supportive abilities or an exotic that is guaranteed, then I will take that into account. Because every hunter can get and run and those things. But if it's something where it's like a super or an exotic that is by chance to get, go away. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that stupid argument. And also, this is probably more than likely what the exotic is going to do. More grenade charge, more wall charge, more rift charge, more dodge charge, something like that, when you dodge near someone. First of all, you're wasting something like the dodge, just for the fact of you want your friends to get more energy that they could use. Alright, this is not a problem. But what is a problem is the fact that that's probably one of the more that's probably going to be the only thing most people run, is that. Now, people wouldn't see this as a bad thing, like, at all. People would see this as kind of a... okay, I'll start saying something, then I'll forget it a lot, sorry, but I'm going to tell you right now, don't only play Hunter, please. Just can we get more Warlocks, more Titans in here? A lot, and here's the thing. If you diss on either of them because they're that little played, I remember, me and, it was a bunch of us were Warlocks, and we were kind of just, and what we were doing is we were pushing ahead, because with Dawnblade you can go, really far. So we were trying to push ahead to see if we could just, pull everyone towards us, but we didn't have enough people for that pull. So we had to go back, but still you could tell. And we were joking about Warlock being the true master race. And then I remember someone, a couple of them, I think we only had 2 hunters actually. So the 2 hunters were saying, because a Warlock's blink is bad for parkour, that it's not master race. You don't need to run. First of all, it's not like you have blink, and another blink. You've got strafe glide, burst glide, and then a blink. And the blink is useless for parkour situations. It's actually very useful. It's actually more useful than either the Hunter's double or triple jump and the Titan's rocket thing and the normal glide. It is way more useful than all of those in one regard. The fact that it does what the Hunter's dodge does, but way easier. Now, granted, it is fairly nerfed in PvP, and for some reason it's also of such in PvE, because for some reason I can't get the thing to hold for that long, or I can't keep going for a long amount of time, and it makes me really mad. But what do you think is, better to see? A bunch of one character that is practically almost useless as towards most things, or seeing a lot of a character that is very useful and would actually you'd want to be in your fire team. Now, I'm not saying a hunter shouldn't be in the game. And a lot of people would say, well, do you also support Cade's death? Well, I kinda do, just for the fact that it'll balance out the population at that point, because they can't use them for promotional material anymore. So yes, I'm somewhat happy about it. But keep in mind, I also did hate it. It's very emotional. He's the only character with character in the game. Only one with personality. Alright? So before you go ahead and say, oh, you probably are just proud of his death because of the fact that there will be more hunters or more warlocks or more yada yada. Yes, of course I'm going to be happy about the fact that now I will actually get more of more useful classes is to run around in this game rather than a pretty useless class. Now, they're not entirely useless, but unless they make them very heavily like DPS or at all like support, never run a hunter for a raid or anything. Now, if you want raid gear for a hunter, I'm not stopping you from playing a raid as that hunter. But if you're trying to complete the raid and get raid loot in general, like raid weapons, raid token. Actually, you know what? Never run a hunter for a raid, because you can just use the tokens on your hunter. Just never run hunter for anything that will ugh. And before you say, what about mobility? Hold on. Give me a second. Alright, you see, that is a 4 mobility right there. Now, granted, that is not something that is extravagant like a 7, but that can easily take the place of such. Alright? That could easily take the place of 100. Plus, before I say, what about running the gauntlet? You don't need speed to run the gauntlet. Heck, the only people that would probably need speed is if you're far away from a scion that you need to punch. Heck, I've seen a Titan that was more than... No, I know this. They were only probably running resilience and recovery and almost no mobility. Did the gauntlet first. And this was a professional raid team. I think it was actually Dado who was running this. Alright? Whenever someone's like, whenever people are just gonna straight up say, let's get the hunters to run first, get the Titans to run first instead. Because why not? I mean, actually, in hindsight, or not in hindsight, because hindsight is something that's already happened, but in retrospect, that's the right word, retrospect, it would actually be better for them to run first because they don't have any support, so they couldn't block damage, edge, or recover from the damage fast. So having them run all theirs first and then having other people run when it forces them to, yeah, that's like the only excuse to say hunters should run first. Is because if you're not that skilled of a raid team or something like that. I know this video is probably going to get a lot of hate for anyone that sees it and that likes Hunter. I don't give a shit. Don't try to bring anything up to me and say, hey, what, look at this. And it's something like, oh, this exotic makes a thing do a thing, and that thing is almost complete. Look, before anyone says, what about the dodge? What about the fact that can reload a magazine or, like, what, heal you? Now, yes, granted, that can happen. But here's the problem with making that argument. Just because something can do something, being that is supportive to themselves, does not make it a useful weapon. Or not a useful weapon, a useful item. Alright? Because does that help your team? That you reloaded your magazine? No. Heck, you wasted more time in doing that than you could have taken actually reloading your magazine. Or just switching guns. You think that Alright, you're trying to tell me that like, here's the thing. There are a couple of smart people that would not make this argument. Alright? That's fair. That's fair. If you're not making that argument, you're good. Or if you do know this and you're like, oh yeah, I only play Hunter when it's for fun, during, like, alright. Here's probably the most useful way of playing a Hunter, is playing them in a Trials match. You heard me right, playing them in a Trials match. Yeah, there you go. Probably one of the most popular things in the game. I just said a Hunter is useful for. So stop me if you ever see this. If you see this, you're a hunter main. You're hating me for saying play a different character for PvE. Well, guess what? Trials. Trials would be perfect for a hunter, as they are very PvP oriented. Their main purposes are to try to basically, this is their main purpose, is to try to deal damage, deal something like that, but not like in a DPS fashion. Now, here's what I'm going to do, is I'm probably going to make a different hunter character because, just because, I don't know, I feel like it. Now, I'm probably going to keep some of the future War Cult stuff that I have on my current hunter, but the rest of it can go. And let me just tell you guys something, a little something. Do not ever do this. Never do this, please. Don't. Just stop it. Stop it before you give me cancer. Never try to bring up the argument of, this super is a support, this exotic is a support, this mobility is something useful. Alright, that is my entire argument there. No, that's the entire argument I don't want people to make against me. Is this exotic, this super, this is this mobility can be useful for this. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't count that as useful. Alright? Just because you can run faster than other characters, that's not useful. Just because you can frickin' just because you have a super that's supportive, just because you have an exotic that is supportive, does not mean you should only run a hunter. Have some diversity. Heck, do you know how supportive I am right now? How supportive this build is? Alright. Running this, a bunch of AoE damage. A healing rift. And if I need to, I can switch to an empowering rift. This thing, its exotic perk is it grants a rift when you die. So that way, not only is it easier for someone to get a res off, if you're doing that near people, where everyone's grouped up, and they're firing at a boss, you die, you gave them a rift. And this is a normal time-lasting rift, and I think they buffed it to where now it did not. Or no, I'm pretty sure they buffed it to where now this is what it does not do. It does not get rid of the rift when you respawn or when you're revived. So keep this in mind. And from the time a normal rift would last, you just put one down for people. Alright? And not only that, it grants you energy to put down a rift when you're... Alright. I was questioning what this was because I only saw it in a raid. Nearly Departed and Dearly Departed is what this thing has. I just realized the pun. My god, Dearly Departed. The stag, really. Stop it, Bungie. No one wants that pun. Now I feel like I have cancer from that. Yeah, alright? But grants rift energy. Plop it. So that means you can get more rift energy when you're critically wounded. Yes. Yes, I said I don't count exotics. But keep in mind, this is more supportive if then, oh, you dodge, you do this. Alright? I remember when someone said, should I still run Hunter for raids, as they're very PvP oriented? Someone's response was, well, not really, insert bunch of exotic things. First of all, not everyone's going to get these. Except for maybe me, because of how my luck always gives me a stupid exotic armor piece, not an exotic weapon. So, thanks. Because now I can be supportive with the Hunter, even though I don't really care. But the reason I don't count exotics is you shouldn't need to grind for an exotic, just because it is useful to use in a certain situation. Now, the stag I've had for a while. Alright? I've had this game since Curse of Osiris was a thing. And so I basically got this when Curse of Osiris was still fairly new and all that. And I actually got this at the end of the campaign. That is still probably more useful than any hunter exotic. And not only that, but there's a couple of hunter exotics that are almost mainly PvP oriented. Alright? This is another argument of saying the Midas sucks. No, I'm gonna get backlash for that too. It's a scout rifle. Alright, so it's not a good DPS. It gives you radar, but you don't need that when you're shooting at enemies, and you go a little bit faster. Anyone that says the Midas is good is very stupid. You're very mental. Stop it. Or you at least don't realize that how are those perks going to help you in PvE? Now, I'm not saying... I'm not saying never play a hunter. But what I am saying is at least run a Titan or a Warlock as a secondary character. Heck, you could just play both, and if you like one more, you can keep that at one and grind them, and then just completely forget about your Titan or your Warlock, whichever one you didn't like. That simple. This entire video is trying to spread the word for Destiny to stop playing Hunter so much. Hunter just sucks in any PvE thing because of their underperformance in doing anything that useful. Right? Now, Arc Strider can be useful in a strike. Golden Gun, before you say, well, precision shots against bosses, or Celestial Nighthawk, first of all, no. Don't even bring up Celestial Nighthawk. Stop it. Because now I want to Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun you in the face. Because that's, again, an exotic. I mean, yeah, I got that one immediately. I got the Stag, the Celestial Nighthawk, and the Helm of Saint 14 all pretty much instantly. They were the free exotics you get at the end of the campaign. But here's what my problem is. Alright, you want to know what my problem is? You really want to know what my problem is? Just the sheer fact so many people like Hunter. And so many people keep playing him, but not nearly as many people are playing a Warlock or a Titan. It's really hard to get raid parties together when you don't have a good number of Titan or a good number of Warlock. Alright, a good idea would to probably have 3 Warlocks, 2 Titans, and 1 Hunter. The reason I say 3 Warlocks, a Healing Rift, an Empowering Rift, an Arc Soul Rift. Heck, you could not even run any Hunter at all for the Dawnblade Rift. That does both jobs. Yes, I said that. You could legit not have a Hunter at all. Alright, here's the difference between having a Hunter and then not having a Hunter. You don't get extra damage from a Night Stalker. That's it. For say, well, what about no damage from Golden Gun? That damage can be substituted pretty easily by any other super that deals damage. But the fact that you're getting more buffs and more protection, don't even try to make the argument that, oh, what about, like, lost damage from this? Like I keep mentioning, the fact that, oh, it's pretty useless to not have this type of thing. Look, I can understand loss of damage, it might not be so big of a thing to most people, but if you're smart, or you like to play your cards smart, then you'll know why that's a problem. Alright? Now, I'm not trying to diss Hunters in the entirety. Again, I'm not doing that. But in any PvE scenario, they're pretty useless. Yes. So, like, heck, Gambit, they'd be pretty useless. Yes. Yeah. The PvE thing, just because their most usefulness would be fulfilled in guess where. I want you to guess where. Have you guessed it? Yeah, invading the enemy team. Where you can only kill the enemy team. And again, I don't have any direct. Yeah. Alright, now here's what I looked. And I did do a bit of like bit of digging to try to find anyone that responds without Night Stalker or super exotic, because that doesn't count. Alright, if someone said, oh, you can get this perk and every hunter can get this and every hunter can be able to run this, then I would have changed my mind and would not have made this video. Or these videos as my... I hate using Stream, but it's the best way to record on PlayStation without having to upload the video. Now, I'm trying my hardest to sound like I'm making a reasonable argument here. But I pretty much don't even need to make the argument. Alright? Now, I'm not saying a hunter is just completely bad. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is you need to stop only running a hunter. Now, if someone says, sure, we could have a hunter, not we could use a hunter, not we need a hunter, but a hunter wouldn't do that bad, wouldn't have that big of an effect. Heck, that's when it's okay. To play hunter. When it doesn't affect that bad of thing. When it's not that bad of an effect. Heck, when it's just like, sure, why not? As the response, then you're good. Because you're not playing, because if they're just, if whoever you're doing a raid with says, it's fine, we could have a hunter, sure, why not? No, don't bring a hunter, we need this. Well, if you have a warlock, a titan, you could actually be 100 times more useful to them. You want to know why? Because you're actually going to do something that could be very useful. Like putting up a barricade to stop damage in its entirety until that barricade breaks. Which it does not break easily. Or literally putting down ifs that you can stand in to buff damage or to heal you. If you can at least play one of those characters as a side and keep them up as well, then you're a good player. You're a good hunter. I can give you respect. What I can't respect, though, is hunter only being hunter. Right? I can't respect that. Because you're literally playing a useless player for PvE. And any friend that's like, hey, can you help us do a raid? Now, most people don't take into account that if you're asking your friend that only plays a hunter to do a raid, you're going to have some big trouble. Now, if it's like, oh, they're playing hunter, and they don't really want to go out and do a bunch of warlock stuff, or a bunch of titan stuff, that's fine. But in my opinion, you need to at least run one of these. Alright? The closing argument is the fact that exotics, not everyone's going to get that exotic. That could be probably one of the most sought out after exotics, and it's very, very little. Or you very rarely will get it. Or a super. A super won't count because that's not only sacrificing most of the damage you could be doing, but it's also probably not going to be that supportive. And then movement speed. Alright, that's the closing argument. See you later.